Hi, my name is Carla Klopp. I'm going to show you how to make this pattern. I call it Mixer Magic. It's basically you're making hexagons, although the technique will work for 4-piece units or 8-piece units. It doesn't really matter. Mixer Magic was created specifically for the Northcott Gradation Mixer fabric collection. There are 16 different colors in that collection. And if you look at them, you'll see a variety of shades in the same repeat of the fabric. So in some cases it's very monochromish, there are multiple colors, but in others there's a distinct blend with 2 different colors, 3 or 4 colors. Here's an example of a Mixer Magic with hexagons with 2 different colors. So you make one set of hexes with one and another set with the other, and then blend them for a queen size quilt. And this one is the yellows and the oranges. There's some purple in there, there's some red in there. And this one again, 2 different colorways. There's some common colors so that they blend beautifully. The pictures you're going to see are making this particular fabric quilt. You're going to cut 6 triangles that are identical and put those 6 together to make that hexagon shape. Every one will be unique, going from light to dark to purple to green. So you're going to start with your 4 yards of fabric and stretch it out, and you'll see that there's a repeat. What we want are 6 repeats. I usually use the selvage where the printing is. So if, for example, the end of Northcott is right on the edge of my fabric, I'm going to cut there and then find the next Northcott and cut there. That's the easiest way. So you end up getting 6 repeats out of those 4 yards. Now what you want to do is stack them on top of each other, exactly on top of the same print at the same place. And the best way to do that, find a spot, a very small spot that's common on all 6, and it will be common, you just have to find it, and then put your pin through that spot. So find that spot and put your pin through all 6 layers. And you pinch it. You really want to get those spots exactly on top of each other. You're going to do this numerous times around the outside. But each time you're just going to pinch it and then flatten all your sets and then make sure that all of it is straight. Then you leave that upright pin, but put a second pin horizontally, catching all the layers. If I were to take that upright pin, twist it down, and use it to anchor the layers, I would actually be moving every layer over a tiny bit. You just can't have that if you want the precision. We're going to talk about size for a minute. The repeat is common in any fabric, so in this case I thought it was going to be a 24-inch repeat, but when I put my ruler down to start cutting those rows, I noticed it doesn't quite reach the 24-inch mark. It's about a quarter of an inch short, which makes a difference in how I size the triangles that I want to cut. So for example, here's my 6 layers all stacked. If I cut my row 3 3/4 high, then I will get 6 rows across the height of that fabric. Now I want to trim a little bit off the bottom first to straighten out that bottom edge, and then cut my rows 3 3/4. So that's going to give me 96 triangle sets. Watch what happens when we change our row size. Here's a 4 3/4 inch row. Best use of fabric is what I usually recommend. And this is 5 rows. It's going to give me 65 triangle sets, but they'll be a bit bigger. And then when I go to 5 3/4 inch rows, I get 4 rows, and I will have 40 triangle sets. And then with 3 rows, they're 7 3/4 inches high, and I will get 21 triangle sets. Way faster. You don't have obviously as many variations of triangles as you do with the smaller smaller ones, but it's a nice, fast, modern looking quilt. A little bit about the triangles that you use, your templates that you use to cut your triangles. There are a variety of them out there, and I learned the hard way, of course, that they're not all the same. Now, I recommended the Creative Grid ruler because it's common, carried in many places, and I didn't use it when I made my first quilts because I already had one. Mine was a Clearview triangle. Now, you'll notice that the tops are a little bit different. So one has a point at the top, the other one has the point cut off. But look what happens here. There are lines marked on the ruler. When I look at the ruler on the right, which is the Clearview, there's a 1/2 inch point. The top of the triangle is right at that where the arrow is pointing, and the 4-inch line, you follow down, you can see that there's a 4-inch line. When I lay that beside my other triangle, I want to line those points up. In this case, there's a 1/4 inch above with a blunt point, and then when I go down to the 4-inch line, it's not in the same position. So that's why in the pattern there's a caution that says use the 3 3/4 inch line because you've cut your rows 3 3/4. But if you're using the different ruler, you may have to use the 4-inch line. So pay attention to that. So trimming off the bottom edge, you want to straighten that. As hard as you try to get proper vertical cuts, you are going to have a slight variation. So be prepared. There'll be up to a 1/4 inch to trim off. And then you're going to cut your rows. And my rows are 3 3/4 inch because I'm making the small triangles. Be really careful. This is all the precision that you need to worry about is how you cut those triangles. And then you position your ruler, your triangle. See the blunt edge lines up with the top, and in this case 3 3/4 down on the bottom edge, and make that first cut. Now I'm right-handed, so I cut from the right to the left. Notice I've left about a 1/2 inch from the right edge of the fabric before I make that first cut. These pieces are used at the end of your rows when you sew your triangles together, so keep them. You do need left and right versions. I'll show you that in a minute. And then again, I don't want to twist everything around and move it, so I position a straight edge along my ruler, very careful not to move it. Remove the triangle, and then make that cut. Flip the triangle upside down, position it accurately, lay the straight edge on the left side, remove the triangle, and make that cut. When you get to the end of your row of cuts, your final cut will be adding a 1/2 inch, notice at the top edge, and then cut that straight using the straight lines of your grid to make sure that you're straight. So you're going to have 2 end pieces and 15 or 16 triangle sets. I just stacked them like that. Notice that my end pieces are the same. I need mirror versions. I need both left and right. So my next row, I start with my ruler upside down. So my first cut, add that 1/2 inch, make that first trim. You'll notice it's opposite of the one I had left over from the row before. So I've cut everything. I have 3 piles of triangles from 6 rows. I have my left and rights of my end units, and I'm ready to sew them together. Now every hexie set can be arranged in 3 different colorways, depending what you flip into the middle. So generally I use my blunt end in the middle because I find I don't get mixed up. If I decide I really hate the way it looks and I flip it around, then I won't have that blunt end in the center, and I need to pay careful attention when I sew those triangles together. Believe me, it's easy to get confused. So here's how I like to work. I'll show you this. You can obviously do it whatever way you're comfortable with. But I have my pile of 6 triangle sets, and I separate the top 2, put them aside, Take the next two, sew them together, 1/4 inch seam allowance, and use a foot. It's much easier to have a consistent seam allowance if you have one. Then I like to sew towards my blunt end. And then take the last two and also sew those together. You're going to chain stitch, so don't break the thread. Grab the next triangle set, put 2 aside, and then start sewing. So you're going to have a whole long line of attached sewn triangles and a whole long line of the 2 triangles that you put aside, all kept nicely in order. When you cut apart your chain, stack them, put them in order, keep them exactly the way they come off the row or the line. You're going to press your seams open. So now again you're going to stack them, so you're reversing the order, and the one that's last on that pile will be the one that matches your pile of 2 triangle sets. And then you're going to sew one triangle to one and the second triangle to the other. Make sure you match the right triangle as you're going. Should be fine because you've kept them in order. And then the final step, you press those seams open and match the 2 that go together, the 2 half hexies. Put a pin in the middle and then put them aside. So you can see there's a huge color variation. I like to separate my hexies before I do my layout. And then lay them out on a design wall or on a bed. Notice that the half hexies go on the left and right, and those end units that you had left over from cutting your triangles are along the top and the bottom. Now you're going to take one row at a time and sew them. So a vertical row as a corner, a half hexie, half, 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 and an end corner. So that makes that first row, and then you do the next vertical row, and then you can sew those 2 rows together, and slowly you'll build the whole quilt design. So before I sewed these rows together, I decided I wanted to make it bigger, so I picked a different colorway and made another complete set of hexies. And then this is the final result of that quilt. Still need to quilt it, but it looks like it's going to fit just fine. Here's one I made with the large triangles, so I had 21 hexies. I only used 20 in the layout, so 1 left over. Went really fast, there's so few seams. And this one I made with the 5 3/4 inch rows of hexies, so this is a king size quilt. It turned out really well. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. And as a reward, there's a coupon you can use on my website. Just type in ZOOM $5 and you'll get $5 off your order. So thank you very much. Contact me if you have any questions. kitsbycarla.com. You'll find my email and phone number, and then go to the store to do your shopping. Happy quilting!